All right, everyone, welcome back to the Digital Deep Dive show with me, Reed Daly. In episode number 5, we jump into a few stories about what's going on in the world of business and tech. For story number 1, we're going to talk about some of the updates on features and product or company from Twitter and the team over there. Next, we're going to talk about a competitor that's coming up into the sort of Twitter social space called Post News. Next, we're going to jump into unlocking some of the data from the good people over at Adobe on what transpired from Black Friday. Jumping then into the state of marketing, thanks to Salesforce and their 8th edition of the state of marketing. Moving into something a little less, business oriented and more just good old clean tech fun, which is the new festival lineup app that everyone is playing with thanks to a new USC computer scientist. And then we're going to round out the show talking about some of the information coming out of or reports coming out of Forbes and their annual 30 for 30 in the manufacturing space. A couple other things that I do want to highlight are, some of the podcasts that I am interested in. So you got to stick on to the show and we'll jump into one of the ones that I'm really excited about. And then we're going to talk about some of the stuff that I am doing in and around Asana. Before we jump into the show, I just want to remind you that all ideas, thoughts, opinions are my own. You can like, follow, and subscribe to the Digital Deep Dive podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. You can also check out the Digital Deep Dive show on all major social media platforms. So that is Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and now even on YouTube. And it's at the Digital 3, like the number 3 show. And with that said, let's jump into the show. So the first story we're going to talk about is Elon's Twitter. So he's been at the helm for a number of weeks now. And yes, there's been a ton of headlines and press about opinions and sort of enabling folks who had been removed from the platform back onto the platform. I'm not really going to highlight or comment on those. I'm really just more talking about kind of the features and the product roadmap or company roadmap. So in terms of features, and these were reported via Elon's tweets that were, presumably excerpts from their recent, management presentation. So they are going to be working on encrypted DMs, long-form tweets, relaunching Blue Verified program, and then payments. So in terms of the encrypted DMs, you're just seeing an uptick in a lot of these direct messaging capabilities on various social platforms, sort of move to that as the default standards. I know that Google's actually leveraging this narrative to go after Apple and their stronghold on the iMessage, stronghold they have on that capability, and trying to, highlight the fact that Apple maybe isn't as encrypted as it should be. Obviously, that's, Google fighting Apple there and has nothing to do with Twitter. Long form tweets are coming out. A number of years ago, Twitter increased the character limit for tweets, and I think there might be an opportunity to expand beyond that. Of course, you can just break your tweets up into multiple tweets, or kind of type up your paragraph and then tweet it across a variety of different tweets. Another way that I've seen people do that is just type something up in the notes on their phone and then take a screenshot of that and then tweet the image. The relaunching the Blue Verified program. So they want to charge individuals $8, and I'm just totally like, this is my comment here, obviously. I don't understand why I would pay Twitter $8 for what seems to be not that much of an uptick in terms of feature sets, and I just get some blue check mark. Okay, I don't really care to be verified. Now, what would be cool is if I did get verified, would that unlock a richer set of capabilities, or would I get more greater privileges, like maybe high def videos, high def images? Maybe I could upload longer formed audio or video compared to the average non-paying user. Now, in terms of payments, I mean, this makes sense for a variety of reasons. One, Elon and his team were the founders of PayPal, and so they would presumably have some background and are up to speed in terms of what are some of the options of payment processors. I also think or hope that they'll do some way with micropayments to certain, paywall websites like New York Times, like Wall Street Journal. Pick any of your favorite paywall news ads, or not news ads, but news platforms, and just the ability to do like a micropayment when you do see an article. And, possibly over time, if you made a series of payments, let's like say the magic number is you read 20 articles from the New York Times, maybe at that point, New York Times says, hey, like you're consuming a lot of content. We'd like for you to become a paid subscriber or we're going to throttle you back. And I think it'd be a really good way to not only, get people allow people the ability to experience, those platforms, but as they sort of start to consume more, the platforms themselves say, hey, you clearly like our content, why don't you start paying for it, and you get greater access to it over time. Now let's switch from the feature sets on the product itself to the company updates and kind of where they're headed. So they highlighted the fact that they are doing recruiting. They said that new user signups are at an all-time high. User active minutes are also at an all-time high. Monthly daily active users have passed the 250 million mark. And they've said that they've seen a dip in the hate impressions, that they saw a big spike in October. One of the things that Elon came out and said, and so this is his opinion, this was not part of the management presentation, but he sees a path to 1 billion users within 12 to 18 months if they can roll out additional features that make the app more sticky. It's slightly ambitious, and obviously they need to take not necessarily market share away. And that's the one thing that I think is interesting with these social media apps. It's not that I need to steal market share. I just need to steal kind of the maybe the active minutes. So you can still be on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, pick your other platform, but you can jump over to Twitter. And I think over the last couple weeks since Elon's taking over, I've been really interested in what he's having to say and what's going on with the app itself. I've really started to jump into Twitter Spaces, and I find that really interesting. I jumped in and listened to an interview with Sam Bankman-Fried, and it was just really cool to hear that in real time. I felt like it was part of like the news being reported out versus or news being created versus being reported out. I suppose there's no difference to this in watching TV when they're doing an interview. It just felt more personal because it was in my pocket with my phone and I was walking around. All right, so let's jump from story number 1, which is all about Twitter, to a competitor. So News Posts, I think the official name is Post News. And this is a social platform for real people, real news, and civil conversations, or at least that's their tagline. And so the subheader from them, and I'm going to read this word for word, is: remember when social media was fun, introduced you to big ideas and cool people, and actually made you smarter? Remember when it didn't waste your time and make you angry or sad, when you could disagree with someone without being threatened or insulted? We want to bring that back with posts. So what do you actually do with a post? You can write a post of any length and share them broadly. So it's not a micro post, it's not a long form post, it's whatever you want. You can comment, like, share, and repost content with your opinions. Buy individual articles from different premium news providers so you can access multiple perspectives, not just the ones you're subscribed to. You can read content from various sources in a clean interface without jumping into different websites. And you can have meaningful discussions with friends, strangers, experts, and leaders. And for tip creators of engagement content to help them create more of it via integrated micropayments. So it really sounds like a lot of the sort of what things that I don't like and many others don't like about Twitter, Post News is really trying to address. I love the idea that they're giving you the ability to tip creators. I think YouTube is now doing this where if you like some content, you can actually do a micropayment. So why this matters. Post News has some similar basic functionality to Twitter. You make posts, you can repost them, you can comment on people's posts. You can also follow interesting accounts. It is in the beta function. So I think what happened was they were bringing this company to market. And because of everything that was going on with Twitter and Elon, they wanted to bring this faster to market. And that's not my perspective. The founder actually came out and said that on, I think it was either Pivot or it was Pivot with Kara Swisher and Scott Gallo, who coincidentally, Scott is an investor. So if you do follow the Prop D show, he is an investor, and then Kara Swisher, his co-host, is an independent advisor, or not an independent, is an advisor to the CEO. And so some background on the CEO. He was the CEO of Waze that sold to Google, and they really viewed Waze as an ecosystem and not just a navigation app. I don't know if I totally agree with that, but I get the premise of his description there. And, from one last quote here that I really liked, Post News is trying to capitalize on the virtual water cooler of journalists side of Twitter. The platform describes itself as a place to access premium news content without subscriptions or ads. News publishers and independent writers have encouraged to share their articles on Post News under a paywall. The idea is that it would allow users to pay for individual articles from a variety of news sources. It's an alternative or supplement to paying for individual subscriptions to specific news sources. So I just tried to sign up for an account. Like I said, it's in beta. And if you want to kind of move up in the line or the queue, if you recommend it to 5 different individuals and they also sign up for it, and you get a special referral code from them in your inbox. That will hopefully move you up into the queue. I've not been able to access the platform, obviously. As soon as I do, I will share my thoughts and ideas from that. Okay, so we're going to jump from social media into the world of commerce. And thanks to the good people over at Adobe, they've published a really fantastic season shopping trends report. One of the things that I noticed in terms of the data was that in an estimate this year, they are forecasting that they'll see a $210 billion, which is a slight increase from last year, which was $205 billion. You're going to see that on Black Friday, it was $9.12 billion. Interestingly enough, you saw an uptick on Cyber Monday for $11.3 billion. One of the things that I wanted to see is just like the step down from this year, last year, and then sort of in the pandemic. So in the pandemic, you saw $188 billion in revenue. Kind of 2021, 205, and then now we're at 210, $billion in revenue. Where the biggest products that were being looked at for 2022 are AirPods, Squishamallows, air fryers, FIFA 23, and LOL Surprise. So 2 out of the 3 are for kids, 2 out of the 5 are for kids. FIFA is for all gamers and kind of, video game people. Air fryers for homes, and then AirPods because everyone loves them. It's one of Apple's, premier products. The biggest thing that I would say that was more interesting in terms of just some of the data was the fact that you saw, the largest discounting happening in apparel, and you saw much fewer discounting in toys. And I wonder if that's just because there's less places to get them, right? Yes, Toys R Us has come back, but you don't have the big toy stores you used to have. So I wonder if it's just you kind of have Target and maybe Walmart and Amazon, and that's it in terms of where you get toys, so they don't have to offer as many discounts. Not really sure about that. And then in terms of products that I thought were also really interesting to see is furniture, of all things, had huge discounting earlier in October, but has significantly dropped in terms of their willingness to provide those discountings. Whereas, one of the biggest things that I would have seen in terms of like sporting goods and sporting good apparel, that doesn't seem to like really jump up or down. It's pretty neutral there. Same with televisions. I mean, they've given fewer and fewer discounts. One would assume they've probably already sold through some of those things. So, interesting view. If you're less familiar with Adobe on terms of why they'd be offering this, they do have their Experience Cloud. They're doing a ton of work through Marketo, so they can get access to that data. So it's always interesting to see. All right, we're going to jump from one sort of software company into the other, and we're going to jump into Salesforce's 8th edition of the State of Marketing. It's insights and trends from 6,000 marketers with over 2 trillion outbound marketing communications. So I'm going to read just a little bit here. So Sarah Franklin, President and CEO of Salesforce, CMO of Salesforce, we've been through so much in the past few years, adapting our strategies and practices to navigate a rapidly changing and challenging environment. Companies everywhere are looking for their CMOs and marketing teams to meet customers' digital-first expectations, do more with less in the face of economic headwinds, and accommodate evolving data privacy laws to prepare for a cookieless future. Okay, so Salesforce collected insights from marketing leaders worldwide to understand how they're prioritizing their efforts in this new day. And what we did discover is in the year's State of Marketing, so the report that I'm talking through, marketing businesses are leading with values while embracing optimism and innovation. They're prioritizing driving as much as value as possible from existing tools and technologies while focusing on new investments in key areas like automation and productivity. So this is words, or her words are music to my ears, because this is what I've been driving home to my team and to customers that I work with. Just the fact that we are going into sort of headwinds of economic downturn, and you're going to have to do more with less, and you're going to have to drive value and bring value to your customers. And the biggest thing that I'm super bullish on for 2023 through, let's say, 2025 is just the finally organizations embracing automation, outside of just the IT function. And I know we're talking about marketing here, but that's just one of the big things. In terms of let's break down some of the things that we saw in this report. So from the marketing performance levels throughout the report, they classified survey respondents across the following tiers. So 15% of folks surveyed, so those 6,000 people surveyed, were completely satisfied with their overall marketing performance and the outcomes of their marketing investments. 18% thought that marketing underperformed moderately or less than satisfied with their overall performance, and then 67% thought marketing was performing and met needs. And so I want to kind of like maybe go back and look at the trend data here. They have done this over the last 8 years. So it'd be interesting to see how that trend data has evolved and what people's opinions are of their marketing things. In terms of the, kind of things that I took away, were really two things: that our brands are investing in a combination of channels and technologies to reach their audience and build lasting customer relationships. 83% of marketers say their marketing organization engages customers in real time across one or more marketing channels. That is pretty incredible. One would assume that or draw a correlation that COVID was an accelerant to that brands needed to find ways to seamlessly engage with their customers, but the fact that they're doing it across multiple channels and able to kind of coordinate that information is pretty impressive, pretty remarkable. KPI shifts as marketers adopt real-time intelligence was another thing that struck me in this report. Across every stage of the marketing funnel, marketers are tracking more metrics year over year than ever before. Speed to insights remains a competitive advantage, with 72% of high-performing marketers able to analyze market performance in real time. And I think that's increasingly important. Not only is it critical to be able to engage with the right sort of point of view or kind of piece of information to your customer at the right time, but it's also critical to help in terms of your product segmentation, your product development, your sort of bottom of the funnel activities in terms of conversion, and how you can do that more effectively through the use of real-time data. So head over to Salesforce. You can download the PDF and read the whole report. They always do a great job, and looking forward to hearing your feedback on the state of the marketing report, and if you agree or disagree with some of their observations and key takeaways. All right, moving from Salesforce and their market report, we're going to talk about the Forbes annual 30 for 30, and one of the subsections that I'm increasingly interested in over the last few years, which is the manufacturing and industry section. For those of you listening to the show, I spend a fair bit of my time working with owner-operators in the manufacturing and distribution space. I think that manufacturing is just one of the most fascinating industries. Obviously, I look at how digital technology can enable the organization to run more effectively and efficiently, to not only impact bottom line and top line initiatives, but expand the reach of the organization at large. So over the next few weeks, I'll be highlighting some of the individuals called out in the 30 for 30 report from Forbes. And Jack Slatnik is the founder of the CEO Wireless Charging Air. I think it's pronounced Air or Area. It's AIRA. Conventional wireless chargers deliver power only when the devices are precisely aligned, but Area's pad is active from corner to corner, ensuring devices charge no matter where they're placed. He was one of the winners of Shark Tank, and they raised $12 million. And I'll just be honest, like in front of my desk, I've got a OK case on my iPhone, and I've got actually the Apple little disc charger for my phone. And unless I put it perfectly on there, it doesn't want to charge. So having one of these sort of standing or charging mats next to my bed or on my desk would be kind of ideal, just because I could put it there and I don't have to worry about getting it perfectly on there. What I'm going to do in the show notes is link to his website. That's AIRApower.com, as well as his LinkedIn. And hats off to you, Jake, and your team for making the Forbes 30 under 30. So we're going to wrap up the what's happening in the news section, or kind of news in tech, if you will, with talking about a really fun story, which is called InstaFest. This was developed by Anshay Sabu. He is a USC computer science student, and so the idea is that InstaFest integrates with Spotify, and I think the Apple Music is coming from what I saw on his website. So it basically looks at your past listening history over the last, I think it was year, all time, and 6 months, and then puts together kind of like a Coachella looking lineup. And the quote, I believe, and I'm paraphrasing this, was the fact that he was just kind of curious to what was going to be out in the world of Coachella's announcement, because they do this sort of like 3-day, flyer that everyone knows and loves, and said, let me go build this. And so I don't know what the intent of it is. There's no monetization there. So I have no idea how he's looking to monetize this, but it was pretty smart that on the app, he linked to his Twitter followers or Twitter account. So when I think I looked at it for the first time, he was at maybe like 3,000 followers. And when I looked back recording this show, I think he was up to 4,000 followers. So, he gained at least 1,000 followers. I sent him a tweet and said hats off, to him for making this. I thought it was pretty cool. All right, so we're going to move from news and tech to highlighting some stuff that I'm just really enjoying listening to and learning from. So the spotlight, podcast spotlight for this week is from the good folks over at A16Z. And the episode is M&A before and after, what founders need to know. So I'm going to just give you the background of the show, and then the episode kind of highlights. So the A16Z podcast discusses tech and cultural trends, news, and futures, especially as software eats the world. It features industry experts, business leaders, and other interesting thinkers and voices from around the world. The podcast is produced by A16Z, a Silicon-based venture capital firm. Multiple episodes are released every week. Visit a16z.com for more details and go sign up for newsletters and other contests as well. Okay, so why I liked this particular episode. So, welcome to the A16Z podcast. They were talking about mindsets and frameworks for founders should know about when navigating the mergers and acquisitions or M&A process, both before and after, including how to think about pricing dynamics, factors that go into decision-making process, and what to expect from integration once a deal is done. Obviously, this is near and dear to my heart because this is a lot of the work that I do in my day job. And, I thought that the A16Z team did a fantastic job of just running this through in terms of what a founder needs to think about, from an M&A perspective. So if you are thinking about, jumping into the venture space or you're about to go through any M&A work, I highly recommend having a listen to this. I will link the show episode into the show notes. I will also make sure that we tweet out all the information and show notes via the Digital 3D show on Twitter. Okay, so the last piece I want to talk about is just a glimpse into one of the apps that I've been using more recently, and then talk about how you guys want to see some of the sort of more deep dive on what I'm using it or how I'm using this solution. So I use Asana for a lot of my sort of day-to-day task management, less on the goal setting, but generally it helps me try to figure out what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it, and kind of prioritize things. And yes, there are other solutions out in the marketplace. I'm a Mac user, so you've got the Reminders app. Microsoft has their versions of this. And, I've just gravitated to using Asana more recently. And one of the things that I've been doing is building a content calendar with it, as well as looking at sort of my end of day checklists and my sort of prioritization of tasks. But the biggest thing that I'm using for is its template function. So it's got this fantastic library of templates, and I've created a couple of my own. Some of them are, as basic as like my end of day or end of week wrap. I also have a template for just my social media calendar. But I'm very interested in how others are using Asana. So hit me up at Reed Daily on Twitter and let me know how you're using it. And I think what I'm going to do on this one is do sort of a YouTube series on how I'm using the product and some of the features that I find are most interesting, and then get your sort of 2 cents on how you guys are using it and how you guys are thinking that it can help you optimize your day, your week, your year. But always welcome feedback on that. All right, that wraps it up for this week's Digital Deep Dive show. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to the show on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Don't forget to find me on Twitter and Instagram. That's at Reed Daily, ReedDailey. And just to be clear, the show is Digital 3D Show. And it's, because I picked that name, we're on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. So I hope you enjoy the episode, and looking forward to catching you guys next week. Thanks.